Welcome to the Lamont N Leah podcast. Today we are giving you a disclaimer, letting you know we are talking about trauma. And trauma is a hard discussion. Not everyone wants to talk about trauma. Not everyone's ready to process trauma. But if you are, stay tuned. If you are not, go ahead and tune in on another week. We look forward to you guys listening and commenting and participating with us soon. Have a great day. I'm Lamont, and I believe that every person experiences some sort of trauma.
And I'm Leah. No comment.
And you're tuning into the
Lamont N Leah podcast.
It is May, the second part of May, and it is National Mental Health Awareness Month. Today is May 22nd, and today is International BU Day. Also coming up, yeah, BU, Leah, BU. Also coming up is May 24th, Brothers Day. So, yes. Leah, you can take all your brothers out and do something fun with them. And then May 28th is National Hamburger Day. So, Lamont and Leah are going to go grill some hamburgers together, get Patrick, let's get something to eat.
I'll do that. I can do National Hamburger Day, yeah.
Also coming up is May 30th. Memorial Day. It's the last Monday in May, and it's also National Creative Day.
Interesting.
Bringing us right into June with the only two things I found were June 6th. Wow, apparently I can't talk today. June 6th, National Drive-In Movie Day, and June 10th, National Egg Roll Day and Iced Tea Day.
My favorite day.
So there's some pretty interesting holidays coming up. Today we're talking about trauma and how all trauma is relevant. No trauma is smaller than anyone else's trauma. I guess we have to talk about the intensity of what it is for us and our experience and how we relate to it and we deal with it. We shouldn't really dismiss people's trauma, and that's what we're going to really talk today. About. We've invited special guest Drey Aaron, host of Another Atheist Podcast, and he's soon going to be launching the Drey Aaron Project.
Let's jump into it.
Welcome, Drey, to the Lamont N Leah Podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, Drey, could you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your podcast and anything else that is very interesting about you?
Oh man, there's nothing interesting about me. But yeah, I'm Drey Aaron. I have a very small podcast called Another Atheist Podcast because I'm secular and not sure if I'm gonna continue to do it. I've been doing it for a couple of years now. I'm very active on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, but in a very, insignificant way. And that's really about it.
What type of things do you speak about on your podcast?
Mostly, I invite guests on and we'll talk about whatever's current. A lot of politics, and of course it's through the lens of my own personal beliefs, my own belief system, but mostly talk about a lot of politics. Sometimes we get into a lot of social commentary, what's going on, just a lot of what's going on in the world today and how it relates to us.
Cool.
Yeah, I definitely have to go check it out. I haven't checked it out. I usually do.
You're not missing anything. You're not missing anything.
All right.
Let me see.
Ahead,
also, you said Lamont was telling me that you were starting a project.
Yeah,
I'd like to share about that.
I'm for about a year. I've been thinking about doing a YouTube channel, taking it from from the audio realm to the visual realm.
Cool.
Um, I mean, you guys are doing this. You know, it's not easy, right? It's not easy to
Right.
start. It's not easy to keep going. And I'm not like, and it's two of you, and it's like one of me. And I haven't figured out exactly
Yeah.
what that will look like, but it's a work in progress.
Okay, awesome. We look forward to that. Yeah, we'd like to check out everyone's stuff especially when we invite them on. I mean, it makes sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like we should be like promoting each other and like building
That is
each other
true.
up.
That is true. That is true. Especially because you guys have a really awesome podcast. Like I think that you know, a show like this is really needed, especially in the time that we live in right now. You know, with everybody going through their own personal things, and a lot of people feeling like, you know, their problems, like they're the only ones going through it. I know that personally. You know, once I found out that you know, other people that look like me was feeling the exact same way I do, it was a lot easier for me, you know, to start getting help and to break down those walls of communication and letting people talk to me, and me being open with other people. And I think that, you know, your guys' show, it aids in that. It helps that.
We hope
Thank
it
you.
does. Like
Oh,
that is the goal. That
I
is
bet
definitely
you
the
it
goal.
does. I bet you it does.
So, Leia, are you ready to jump into today's main topic?
Yeah, why don't we get started?
All right. So we're talking about trauma today. So before we even talk about trauma, we probably should define it. Define it. So what is trauma?
Lamont? You brought it up. Go.
Well, what I found, like, I've been working in mental health for a very long time, and we do all this trauma informed care and training. Um, I work with kids, and trauma shows up differently for them. So if I had to talk about trauma or define trauma, I would say it's an emotional response to a terrible event like an accident, physical harm, natural disaster, or a life threatening event. But I think it can also be more than that, right? Like, there's like emotional trauma, right? Which harms the emotion or the inner self. And I feel like we don't focus on that a lot when working with people.
I absolutely agree with you. Especially the part that, you know, we as a society, especially here in the US, we don't tend to deal with mental health as a whole. We you know, we tend to ignore that, or um not want to talk about mental health. But trauma, which is like probably the cause of all of our issues, because we've all been traumatized in some sort of way, and we're not, you know, we don't get to process that in a healthy way. Um, so yeah, I absolutely agree with you.
I guess I have like a question. Like,
Go ahead.
what at what point does something, I don't know. Hold on, let me reframe my question. Like, I guess when I hear the word trauma or traumatic event, I think of something like crazy, like, oh my gosh, this person got in such a terrible accident and they can't walk anymore and all their family died.
Right.
I'm thinking
No,
like, oh
right,
my
right.
gosh, traumatic. But I guess I've just been spending a lot of time online, as we all have the last few years. And I guess I'm just hearing from a lot of people that I guess trauma doesn't have to be such a crazy event that happens to you. It can be smaller. So previously, I would have defined trauma as like, a terrible event and your reaction to it. But I guess maybe my definition is wrong or not fully correct or something.
Right. So there was this one TikToker, and I wish I would have saved the video because it was so awesome. He was describing how like all trauma is relative, and I was like, oh, cool, because we were planning an episode about that, right? So I should have been like saved, right? Anyways, so all trauma is relevant, and he was talking about how some of us have tools to deal with the intensity and how some of us doesn't. And then he gave an example of how, like, say you're a parent and you're doing everything right. You're emotionally validating your kids. You're not messing them up and whatever. But that kid has a sibling, and that sibling takes that kid's toy and slams it on the ground and breaks it. That's traumatic, right? And so his point was like, you can do everything right as a parent. Your kids are going to be involved with other people that are going to cause them some form of trauma, physically, mentally, emotionally. It's gonna happen. So we need to be aware. We need to be aware of the signs, and we need to be like able to help them. And sometimes it's just kids being kids, not meaning to like do severe damage, but that's still like impactful.
Yeah.
I actually got a personal story to that. One of my cousins told us we do a like a Zoom meeting on Wednesday nights, me and my cousins, right, to kind of stay close since we're all in different areas. And one of my cousins told us, I mean, he was telling it to us as a joke, but him and his brother, my other cousin, used to like beat him every single time my aunt and uncle would leave the house. And these are things that I didn't know this was going on back then, because we're all grown in our 30s and 40s now. But he was telling the story, and you can tell, even though he was laughing and we were all laughing, he's telling these stories, you can tell it was a traumatic experience for him. It's something that he's carrying around with him, like maybe not harboring ill feelings for his brother, but you can tell it's something that's not quite something that he hasn't quite processed yet. And so I think that sometimes we can be traumatized by things or by people that didn't actually mean to hurt us, and didn't mean to make us feel that way. But here's an example right there and again, I could be wrong about that, but I think that's definitely something.
Absolutely. Which leads us into our next question, which is, how does trauma affect people? So when he was telling his story, what did you see? And like, how did you like pick up like, man, like this was very impactful for him?
And again, he was telling it as a joke because his brother had just got off the line, right? And then he started telling, I don't remember how he got there, right? But and again, he was joking, but I don't know, there was an undertone there that I just went, oh man, this is something that's bothering you, right? Like this is something that, and I'm just saying this to myself, man, this is something like maybe you and him need to sit down and discuss and unpack. And maybe you need to hear like an apology or something, because again, we're all different, right? We all perceive things differently.
Maybe he needs, like, it could be apology. Maybe he needs to just have the brother understand how much those experiences impacted him.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like things like that people don't realize will affect people in the future. I know there's a lot of things that I do personally, which is a direct result of situations that happened when I was a kid. I mean, I guess they could be, I don't know if they'd be considered trauma or traumatic experiences, but I know that situations and stuff that happened, even if they weren't like bad or whatever, have directly affected how I act as an adult. Like I'm so like I'm not going to say I'm punctual, but I get very anxious about being punctual. and that's a direct result of my family always being late for everything growing up.
Right.
We're always late. And now I'm just like so anxious about being on time that I will go somewhere 20 minutes early just so I make sure that I'm there on time.
That's actually interesting though, because would that be considered trauma? And I'm asking that question. Would that be, because I'm kind of the same way. My mother is never on time. Like never. And it bugs me when she comes here and I say, hey, at 5 o'clock we're walking out the door and she's still in the bathroom, like just starting to get dressed, right? And that bugs me because I hate to be late, because I'm so, growing up, we were always walking in when something has already started.
And it's so embarrassing.
It is. I didn't see the first like 20 minutes of Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? When I was little, because we were always late.
Yeah, so to answer your question, is that traumatic? Possibly. Trauma is a persuasive problem, right? It can present in many different ways and has different impacts on the individual's functioning, of their mental functioning, of their physical functioning, of their social functioning, of their emotional and or spiritual well-being. So trauma can be super persuasive. And so when, like, to not feel the stressors that come with it, to avoid the uncomfortableness that comes with being late, you guys have changed your behavior in such a way to like not experience that, because it does not feel good. So it could be a result of a trauma. And would I call it small or big? I don't think we need to call it small or big. We just need to recognize it's an effect of what has happened.
I'm so glad my brain decided to replace one anxiety with another. Love it. Thank you.
Those were some that seemed, I like, so the whole point of this like episode is not to say like this is minor and this is severe, but
Right.
like those don't like if a lot of people are listening right now, not seem like major or big issues, but it has had an impact. So what are some known experiences that can be traumatic for people?
I think like the most well-known ones are like abuse, like physical, mental, sexual. I mean, I think when people hear the word trauma or someone says, oh, I've dealt with trauma in my life, that's immediately what everyone thinks. They're like, oh, so
Right.
you were abused.
Right. Yeah.
That's like the most well-known one.
But you could be also, your boyfriend and girlfriend being unfaithful to you. That can create trauma, especially if
Emotional.
right, emotional trauma, especially if, again, it's not processed in a healthy way, right? If you don't come to terms with it and accept what happened and figure out how to move on from that, not letting events in your life kind of define who you are. Yeah. Talking from experience.
Yeah. Other ones might be like racism, discrimination, or oppression, which all of us, I think, here might have experienced some kind. Leah, you're a woman, so that
Yeah.
automatically matters. Like oppression, right there, right?
I'm a light-skinned brown woman.
I'm African American. I'm also Costa Rican. Are you African American, Drey?
Yes.
All right, so
Yep.
we probably experienced some racism, some discrimination because of our skin color.
All the
Or
time.
yeah. So, and that definitely sets people up for traumatic experiences, how they deal with things, and how they present, and how they show up in this world.
Right. In fact, to piggyback on what you just said about especially Black men, in the US, we are so traumatized from our relationship with America and with law enforcement, that trauma has been passed down through generations. So like I'm holding the trauma from my father and his father, right? And then adding that trauma to my own. So much that sometimes I think for at least young black people in general, that we have to question everything if it's racial, right? Like if the police pull me over, the first thing I have to, or the first thing I feel like I have to do is go, is he pulling me over because I'm black? And he may not be, but because I'm traumatized by, the many times that I was pulled over just because I'm black. I have to question it.
Right. And I don't know if I've ever been pulled over because I was black. Definitely there's usually like a reason, like my registration was expired, I was on the cell phone once, or whatever. But I still think, like, am I being pulled over because I'm black? Because of all the stories that I hear about.
Right.
Yeah.
See, even that can be traumatic, right? You're still, look, you're carrying my trauma. And like, we just met, you're carrying my trauma.
Right. And so like as a black man, like being pulled over, I remember having the conversation with my mom, like, if you ever get pulled over, keep your hands on the wheels. Don't
speak like this
anything until they tell you. Don't, and like it's sad that we have to have these conversation experiences because of ways people have dealt with black people in the past, or I guess other people, because I'm not sure like if this is happening to non-black people too, but like I've had conversations with
white guys, and the one thing that I always say to them before we're having that conversation is, I guarantee you that I've had more interaction with the police than you have, and I don't have a record. I've never been arrested, and I've never been to jail, and I guarantee you I have more interactions with the police than you have. And sometimes they go, yeah, and I've been to jail. Right. And so I'm like, so that right there should tell you there's something wrong, right?
Right.
Like have you ever, I ask, hey, have you ever been house hunting and sitting in front of a house with the for sale sign in front of that house, and someone called the police on you? I doubt it. Yeah,
I haven't had that experience either.
I have. Right?
But
I have.
Horrible.
Yeah, I have. Well, because, and events like that are traumatizing, right? Even if nothing comes, like, even if the police don't pull me out of the car and, put a gun in my head and slam me to the ground, just the idea of it, right? The feeling of it is traumatizing. Like, God damn it, I can't even house hunt. Right? I can't do what that other people do on a regular basis. This is
right.
BS. Right.
Since we're still on this subject, a friend of mine recently sent me a video showing this lady in Central Park with her dog walking in. This man's recording this lady, I think because she didn't have the dog on the leash or whatever, or something, and like I think it's illegal not to have your dog on the leash or whatever. So this white lady, she's like, please stop recording me. And she comes up to him, he's like, ma'am, please don't come any closer to me. And like she's like if you don't stop recording me, I'm going to call the police and tell them a black man is threatening me, even though he had not. Yeah, I'll send you the video, Leah. Wait, I'll send you the video.
You haven't seen that? That's like from last year.
Like, oh my God. Yeah, that's and so like he records her through the whole interaction.
It's called Central Park Karen. I think that's what they called her.
Oh, did you see it?
Oh yeah, that was like big last year.
Oh, okay. My friend recently just sent it to me. And like he's like a very like black like activist like. So I was like, wow. Like, it was really hard. Like I'll send it to you.
Okay. I don't know if I want to see that. I'm just gonna be upset.
Right. Yeah, she did. She said that. She said, I'm gonna call the police and tell them that a black man is threatening me. Which again, kind of that shows that they have that in their back pocket, right? Like they must know that She had to know by saying that was going to elicit a certain response, right? That there was an
Right.
outcome that was probably going to happen that was going to be in her favor, or she wouldn't have said that.
Very
She wouldn't
strange.
have, yeah, very, very strange, right? And
Can't
you want
relate.
and you wonder why the black community is traumatized, right? Why
Yeah.
we have trauma.
Right, right.
Yeah,
And so, some experiences might be violence in the community, war, or terrorism,
right.
right? I've never had that experience. I know, like, we've
Thank
set a couple
God.
of places on fire in LA and Portland and stuff. Like, just imagine living through that as a child, like experiencing that, or even an adult. Like that's your home. That's where someplace you're supposed to be safe, and you're
Hmm.
experiencing that, and how that can cause trauma. Being poor or in the poverty, that can be traumatic for people.
Mm-hmm.
Living with a family member with mental health or substance disorders, right? That can be really hard
Yeah.
and traumatic. So, trauma can be encompassing. But what's interesting is even though we all talk about trauma and we know there's trauma, there's this invalidation of trauma kind of built in at least the American culture. I'm not sure about other cultures, but definitely in the American culture, like everyone goes through that. Get over it, or suck it up, or be a man, or like so many invalidating things. Why do people try
Yeah.
to invalidate other?
Stop being depressed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stop being depressed. What are you depressed about? Yeah, that's another one.
So why? What is it that? What is it that makes people try to invalidate other people's drama? What do you think's going on there?
Would it be too much to say that validating someone else's trauma that you don't perceive as worse than your own makes them feel invalidated? Because I've had a conversation with a few different people where there's like, well, I don't know why everyone's making such a big deal about whatever, like some experience, right? And there's like, because when I did had this experience, no one cared. So how come everyone cares about that experience?
Mm,
They're similar, but like, was it mine worse? Like, and I've heard that from a few people. And like, I just wonder if maybe they feel like, oh, well, how come they care about those people, but no one cared about me?
Right. So
mm.
if I had to give this like a name or title, I would say invalidation begats invalidation. Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because when Leah was talking, I going through my mental Rolodex, I've heard people say the same thing. Like, hey, I didn't, that happened to me too.
Hmm.
So what's the big deal? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that too. Actually, many times I think
Yeah, I
I've,
think like the
yeah,
most recent one I heard was they're talking about upping or providing housing or something for people, right? And someone's just like, "Well, I used to be poor. We almost
yeah,
got kicked out or we had to live 20 people in an apartment. No one cared back then. No one gave me a house."
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I'm just like, "Yeah, but
Right.
I'm
Yeah. But
sorry."
yeah, I'm sorry, but why would you want someone else to go? Like, think about how that made you
Yeah.
feel. Why would you want
Yeah.
someone else to go through that?
Right. But that takes a level of empathy that that person might be lacking, right? Like you were able to say,
Ah,
like you went through that. Like why would you want someone else? Like you
Hmm.
clearly have empathy. You can put yourself in that person's
Yeah.
experience in that role, and not want that for other people. While someone saying this is either lacking empathy in the moment, or it's just really having a hard time connecting. So I can see how the this trauma, like it's kind of like this barrier, like it's kind of like I've experienced this trauma and I'm not trying to relive it right now with you. So I don't have the empathy to like be in this space with you. So I'm going to be like, suck it up, kind of like it happens.
So are you saying they're choosing in that moment to not have empathy? Or are you saying these are people that say that they already lack empathy?
I think it could be a combination of both, right? So if I'm not ready to face what I'm going through, maybe I'm a very empathetic person, but right now, today, this conversation, like, no, like, I just can't go there with you guys today. So I'm not going to show up with that empathy. Or maybe I'm just not an empathetic person and I lack empathy.
I can see that first part.
Yeah,
I
like,
do that.
Almost like a
I do
protective
that.
factor, right?
Yeah.
I'm just like, I can't today. Not doing it.
And so in an ideal world, like if we were connecting with people, it'd be like, hey guys, this is a tough subject for me and I just can't go there with you today. That would be better than like suck it up. And
Yeah.
I like, you know.
True.
Yeah, suck it up, me too, right? Yeah.
I think another reason why people try to invalidate would be maybe they look at it and they just don't see how that could be a big deal, which is semi-related to what we were just talking about. But, you know, maybe that person didn't go through that same thing, but just kind of like see it and there's like, what? Like
Right.
not understanding.
Yeah, I'm not able to understand or see how that can even affect someone like that.
Do you guys think that part of that is that some people, or maybe most people, don't understand that we're all different and that we all process things differently?
I think that could definitely be a key factor in why people invalidate other people's trauma.
Yeah.
Right. So like, hey, that happened to me and I got over it. Why can't you? Right. Hey, I was homeless and I got a job and I did this and I took these steps to get myself on my feet. Why aren't you doing that?
I almost wonder if it's a case of rewriting the story, right? Because if I was homeless and I got a job and I took certain steps to make sure that happened, I'm pretty sure something traumatic happened between point A and point B. But
Right.
like, I got over it, I accomplished it, I'm very successful now. So I don't remember or I don't care to go back to like dealing with like those in between steps, right?
So you invalidate your own, like these people invalidate their own trauma in the process, right?
Right. It
Yeah.
very much sounds like a protective factor.
Yeah. Right. That's interesting.
Right. And so, if we're wanting people to heal, we definitely want to connect, right? We definitely want to be affirming. We definitely don't want to invalidate people's experiences. And so, I think we're going to talk about that a little bit more later. I think there's one more point we wanted to make, Leah.
I mean, it's very related to what we were just talking about, but like, have you ever like been in a conversation with someone, right? And you're telling them like, oh, I had a bad day, this happened, and they go, oh, well, my day, this happened, and this happened. And then the other person goes, oh yeah, well, I died, you know, like, there's like trying to like one up each other.
Yeah.
I feel like people do that with like their traumatic experiences as well. So it's like I can come in and be like, oh yeah, well, you know, when I was little, I got left in a store and now I'm scared to like, that didn't happen. But as an example, like, oh, I got left somewhere and now I'm always like really worried when I go out. Like I get anxious being in crowds and someone's like, okay, cool. Well, you know what? I get anxious being in crowds because this happened to me, you know? And it's just like, it's all this like one trying to one up the other. And it's just like, it's not a race. And that really goes back to like being empathetic, being able to see from someone else's point of view. So it's like all connected, what we were just talking about.
Yeah, because that's another way to invalidate someone else's trauma, right? They're opening up to you, and you're saying, "Yeah, I hear you, but listen to my story."
Yeah.
Like, that wasn't traumatic.
Yeah,
Oh.
or that was traumatic, but mine was worse.
Yeah.
So it's more important.
And
Yeah.
I think that's a little bit different from like, I know there's people who need to tell related stories in order to relate to someone, but that's like different. So it's just like, instead of like one-upping person, they're just like, oh yeah, me too, because of this situation.
Right.
And I think that's like more of a better way to talk about it, even if, you perceive yours as being worse. Again, it goes back to like, we all perceive it differently. What is like big to someone might not be big to another person, even if they're like the same situation. So that's what I wanted to say.
No, that was
So I think now would be good to take a break, and when we return, we're going to talk about ways people can begin to be better affirming and validating of people's experiences.
Okay, that sounds great.
All right.
Lamont, I was so inspired by your intro this morning when you told me that in a few days it's going to be National Burger Day.
Ooh.
That I need to know what my favorite burger combination says about me.
Okay.
So we're back on Buzzfeed again, doing another quiz so that we can learn more about ourselves.
Cool. Sounds great. Let's do this.
All right, so first question, we're going to be starting with the patty. Lamont, are you going to do a beef, a turkey, a veggie, or a portobello mushroom?
This is so unfair. Like, I like all of these, all of them, different times, different moods, But let's just say I'm going to do a traditional beef. Let's say I'm going to do a traditional beef patty.
All right, so let's move on to the bun. Are we going to do the sesame seed bun, the potato roll, the whole wheat bun, or a lettuce wrap? Protein style if you're from California.
Yeah, protein style is like so much better for you, but I totally want to do the potato roll.
All right. Sounds good. Do you want any cheese, Lamont?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so American, cheddar, blue cheese, what's going on?
Well, let's do American.
All right, we'll do American. Moving on to the lettuce, onion, tomato. What are you thinking? Just onion, just tomato, just lettuce, combinations, all three?
Yeah,
Okay, let's do all three. Okay, now pick a fancy topping. We went to a fancy restaurant. Are we doing
definitely not the
bacon,
bacon. My Adventism is showing.
mushrooms, avocado, caramelized onions, pineapple, fried egg, or kimchi? Or none of the above?
Gosh, can I pick more than one?
No, I think you can only pick one.
Oh, because it's between I would pick three of them. I would pick the avocado, the pineapple, and the fried egg. That would be bomb. But if I had to choose just one, I guess I would do the avocado.
All right, avocado. And pick another one. Look at
cool.
you. Get to pick another one.
Let's do the fried egg. Let's do the fried egg.
Right. All right. Do you want some pickles?
Oh, someone's like, pick a third one.
Do you want some pickles, Lamont?
Sure. Let's do the butter.
Bread and butter pickles. All right, no problem. The other options were dill pickle and sour pickle. Lamont went with bread and butter. How about some ketchup and mustard?
Like, if it already comes on the burger, I'm cool. Will I add it myself? No. So, it really depends. Let's just say it comes with the burger. Let's say ketchup and mustard.
Okay, so we'll do ketchup mustard. All right, do you want any other sauces? We got mayonnaise, barbecue sauce, horseradish, garlic aioli,
I'm
peanut
good.
butter, or you're good. All right,
I'm
so
good.
he does not want any other toppings. Lamont, let's see. You're an insecure go-getter.
I'm an insecure go-getter. Okay.
It says, you're smart, you're ambitious, and you're often paralyzed by fear. You know what you want, and you probably know how to get it. You just need to get out of your own head.
That sounds about fair. That's a little fair, a little right.
All right, and my results were in fact the same. I don't know why, But Lamont, we're both insecure go-getters. I mean, I see that for myself, like, for sure. So I don't know how they got that right.
I'm not sure if I like the word insecure, but
Right? Like, you could say cautious.
I guess. Like, cause like, yeah, for real, like fear is a big issue. Like fear does hold us back sometimes, and we have to like work our way or process through that fear, but we're definitely go-getters. So, and Leia's gonna take over this world. Just watch.
Who runs this world? Leah.
Leia!
All right. Thank you for participating. If you guys want to know what this quiz will reveal about you based on your burger preferences, go ahead and click the link down below. Shout out to Buzzfeed again for providing me with content.
Yes, and have a happy National Hamburger Day on May 28th. Welcome back. So now we're going to talk about practices that we can put in place to begin being better affirmers and validators of not just other people, but of ourselves.
Okay.
So what do you guys think we can do? Like, what are some steps we can take?
Listening.
Listening.
Right.
That's
I mean,
the
like
biggest
really,
thing,
right. Really listening. Listening to someone, when they're telling you something. There's a reason sometimes people are opening up to you, right? And to dismiss them is, I mean, that's a really selfish move, right?
Yeah.
But listening and trying your best to understand what what they went through.
Yeah, I think letting someone tell their whole story without interrupting, as hard as it is, because I like to talk, so,
Same.
but, just letting them finish, taking mental notes about what you want to say, but, like, letting them finish is really important, letting them get it all out.
And then there's the listening to yourselves, right? Like when we are in a place to reflect, we have to really listen because like we are some of the biggest non-affirmers and not validators, right? Where we'll think something like, you know what? I don't have time for that. Yeah, like I don't have time for that. Like, let's keep going. Like, no one there's like I gotta do blah 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 versus like taking the time like no, like that did hurt, that did impact me, that did, and this is how it did it, and I'm gonna take that in. I'm not saying hold ill feelings or ill will, but like acknowledging that process, like what happened, and then having a way to like move or manage through those feelings, whether that be talking to someone, whether that be standing up for someone, whether that to someone, whether that be setting boundaries or whatever, really taking a moment to be like, hey, like this did impact me, and this is how it impacted me, and this is what I'm gonna do about it. This is how I'm gonna handle it. This is how I'm gonna manage it. This is how I'm gonna try to heal for it. So kind of like being purposeful.
Do you think that's possible without talking to someone professionally?
Yes and no. I think most of us need other people to help us like guide us there, but sometimes there are some self-actualization, oh my gosh. One of those days. Actualizers. That's how you say it, right? Actualizers. Self-actualizers. That can be like, hey, like this is what's going on. I feel like I can self-actualize sometimes by myself, but most often I need someone to talk to. And I have been to therapy more than once, twice. but yeah, so they definitely have given me some tools to be able to do that kind of self-reflecting as well.
So it's possible, but
so it's
not
really
always
developing
easy.
the tool. And so like even if you don't go to a professional, like say if you have a really good friend that knows how to help you develop tools, like did you do it by yourself? Technically not, but did you go to someone like professional? Like did that answer your question?
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need a 5-hour long phone call with your best friend.
Yeah. Sometimes, listen, that is true. Sometimes that works, but
Yeah.
then there's some there's some events in your life that need to be, broken down and unpacked
Yeah.
and separated and, dealt with. And again, I'm talking from personal experience because I'm in therapy now. And been for a while. And sometimes it's a process to come to
Yes.
terms with, with something that has happened to you. What I told you guys, during the break, almost reset everything, right? So now that's something else that has to be, discussed and unpacked and dealt with in my own personal therapy sessions.
Right.
So yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah, right. It's okay. But to Leah's point, but I've gone to therapy and talked to one of my closest friends for that 5 hour, right? And walked away with more clarity than I probably could have ever gotten in therapy. So it's almost it's kind of weird that it works that way.
Yeah. People tend to heal in relationships. And so the belief behind therapy is because it's a non-bias or supposed to be a non-biased space, someone that can look at something and give it back to you and say, hey, what do you think about this? That's a really good, healthy, therapeutic relationship because there's nothing but positive regard and a chance to transform in that space. Yes, we can do the same things with friends, but some of our friends sometimes have ulterior motives, or they can't see things, or they can't come and not be that biased space and hold it for you.
Right.
Unbiased space. So those are the downfalls of sometimes going to a friend versus a therapist, and it can happen both ways depending on what the relationship's like with that person.
Yeah. True.
Yeah. And we live in a country that don't care about mental health, so everyone doesn't have access to therapy.
Right. We are working on it. I know, my company.
Are we?
My company's always working on it.
Okay,
We're
yeah,
trying,
you're in that space. Are we really?
Some people are.
Okay.
some people are. Some people are.
Yeah.
It's definitely there's definitely a long way to go. There's always hoops and hurdles to avoid and transform. So, real quick. At my company, they try not to turn away anyone. If they don't have insurance, they try to treat them for at least 3 months until they can get them to someone that will take them without insurance or get them insurance so we can treat them longer. I think that's beautiful because that means more people that don't have insurance are getting seen and helped. And there's also the company side where it's well, we want to help you, we want to serve this community, and we still have to pay the people that do the work.
Right.
So it's this balancing act. Other companies, there's always red tape and policies and stuff. So universal health care, we still have a long way to go.
Yeah. And that's sad.
So going back into practices that we can put in place, Leah, do you have any ideas?
How many? I don't even remember what episode it was, but we were talking about identifying emotions. I think this is similar in which you're if you're talking to yourself, if you're trying to validate your own trauma, I guess it would be this situation happened, I'm angry or I'm sad or I'm scared, identifying what it is. And I think if you're talking to someone else, it would be to, if they know how they're feeling, oh, I'm scared, saying, okay, you're scared. How do we, what do we do to help you not be scared? Or if they don't know how they're feeling, they're okay, so are you worried about this situation? Are you sad about this situation? But yeah, so trying to figure out what the emotional issue is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to become a better affirmer or validator, I have three steps here. The first step is reflect the content. The second step is to acknowledge the emotion. That's what you were talking about, Leah. And the third step is to communicate acceptance. So reflect the content. It's important to... How do I put this?
Like if someone is telling you a story, like, you know, like this thing happened to me, right? So how... I was trying to help you out.
I thought you were going to like take it away. I thought you were going to take it away.
No,
Okay.
no. I'm trying to help you out.
So, when we reflect the content, it's kind of like a listening, right? Like, I think that's what you were saying, Drey, listen, right? So, you want to remove the sarcasm. You want to remove the attitude from your voice. You want to, be interested and curious and not judgmental. So when I'm reflecting that content, I'm not putting like, oh, like I'm not having all this like, oh, they're the attitude and they did this and they said this. It's like, what are they really trying to say to me? What were they trying to communicate? This is how I took it in, but if I take this out and I take this out, what was really being said? What was trying to happen in this moment? Does that make sense?
Right. So in other words, you have to listen and be objective.
Yeah. So like actually taking like, and again, like we may not be able to do this right in the moment. Sometimes it's the stuff that we have to do like after we calm ourselves down, after we've done things, but like this is steps later. So later it's like, okay, that conversation didn't go well. Actually, that recently happened with me and one of my brothers. Like, the conversation didn't go well. And I had to be like, okay, why didn't this go well? What was going on? Yeah. What might they have been experiencing? You know? Exactly that. Like, it didn't happen in the moment. Words were said, and I felt bad, and they felt bad, and it was like, man, that was not handled well, right? No one was listening. Or people had their own agendas and no one was trying to understand, no one was trying to connect in those moments. So if we are trying to connect in the moments, we want to make sure that we're removing all that like noise or all those layers. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I think I think I'm guilty of that. I'm learning a lot today.
I know. Now I'm thinking about something that happened last night. I'm like, damn.
I'm thinking about like something that happens almost every other night now. I'm like, oh.
All right. And then Leah, like you were talking about acknowledging those emotions, right? So I was frustrated. Were you frustrated? Why? Like, and like maybe not why. Like, explain to me like what happened. Why were you frustrated? Like, okay, I see that. Right, like just validating like, hey, that was a frustrating experience. Like my brother who apologized like 3 weeks later, like even though I've already done this process like and moved on, like they finally like we had a family meeting, and they apologized in the family meeting, and they were like, hey, I'm sorry, like I did take it out on you and this is how I was feeling and stuff. So I validated his emotions, but also talked about how it made me feel like I was being the jerk, even though I was totally not being the jerk. I was trying to be totally helpful, but again, it wasn't coming across in the moment.
Right. And that happens.
Yeah.
Like that happens. Like you said, like I've been that person. I'm actually trying to be helpful here, but man, I was a jerk. Right? Right. Dang, that really happens. I'm sorry.
We're human. We're human. Yeah. We're not going to be perfect in all of our interactions. But if we want to start healing from some of these interactions and connecting, because that's the only way we can heal is if we connect and we accept, which is the last step, that is how we move through this. And it can't be when we're upset or we're in heightened. It's not going to work. We have to be in a calm like space. So and then
do you suggest time when you have a not an altercation, but when you have a relationship, when you have a conversation that's not an argument, but it's not all civil, right? It's
Yeah.
Do you suggest time, like that 3 weeks? Do you think your brother needed that 3 weeks before he could?
I think he needed that 3 weeks to process. I'm definitely a much
Right.
faster processor. So I think he just needed that time, and when he was ready, he came to me. And if you struggle with waiting, maybe you can be like, hey, like, I'm ready to have this conversation. Are you ready? And then accept whatever answer. Yeah, like, yes, I'm ready to have this conversation. No, I'm not. Maybe like, do you know when you might be ready? Because some people like, you know what, I just need a little bit more time. Like, you're gonna ask those kind of questions. Maybe being a little pushy, but not too pushy. Like, cause like, right, like, cause we all want something. Like, we want like stuff, and say like they still don't know. Like, we then have to accept that answer, right?
Right.
So, just inviting, like being very inviting, and then communicating the acceptance. It's an important part of validating is letting a person know you accept their feelings as they are. You don't have to agree or feel the same way, because a lot of times we're not going to agree or feel the same way, and they're allowed to feel and experience what they feel and experience, and it be okay. It's not a threat to us. It's not a threat to them. Hopefully it's not a threat to them. And be like, okay, I hear you, I see you, I validate you, I affirm your experience, and how are we going to move forward? How are we going to connect moving forward?
Very cool. Lamont, we got a little off topic.
Tends
Just
to
a
My
tiny-
bad.
I mean, this is all good stuff, though. Like, it is.
That's what happens when you invite me on. I derail the whole thing.
It's perfectly fine. But I do want to kind of like maybe just go over your 3 steps with an example so that we can like explain how these 3 steps work when you're trying to validate someone else's trauma. Because like it's one thing to like these are good steps to validate like in general, you know, like when you're having these types of interactions with people. But like when it comes to validating someone's trauma, how would these steps kind of like how would they work in that situation?
Right. So let's do the example. Like I'm writing a speech, or well, okay, wait, we're looking more for a trauma, like a trauma. Okay, can someone give me an example?
Do you want to use my time one, my punctuality one? Since I guess we defined it's kind of a trauma thing, or we could use something else.
You know what? Use something like a car accident, something that's maybe a little bit more relatable.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Or
I mean, actually, I do have one though.
give
okay.
it to us.
Okay, so when I was 11, I didn't just learn how to ride a bike, but I finally was like confident in riding the bicycle by myself, you know? So I was at my aunt's house and she was going to go for her walk and she was like, do you want to come with me? I'm like, sure, let me grab the bike. So I get on the bike and she's still locking up the door, making sure she's got the baby stuff and everything. And she just tells me like, okay, go on ahead. I'll see you at the end of the, not end of the street, but the end of the driveway. And so I take off down the driveway. I get hit by a car. Let me tell you, I don't ride bikes anymore.
Really? So that
Like you've never gotten
experience,
back on a bike after that?
I do occasionally, but I don't like it.
because of
I
that
don't like
moment.
it. I'm worried. I think there was one summer where I tried to do like the bike thing to save money
Right,
and like
right.
go to and from work. Absolutely not. I think I did
wow.
it 3 times and I just stopped. I was like,
Leah, I have a personal question.
Yes.
When we did the bike-a-thons,
I
how
did not
you even-
participate.
I did not realize you didn't participate in
I didn't
that.
even go. I didn't show up for that.
Interesting. All right, so really quick, like Leia and I grew up together in Pathfinders, and there was one event that we would do like every year called the Bike-a-thon, where you would raise money like by doing so many laps or whatever. And I never really paid attention to Leah not being.
Wow. Yeah.
But yeah, so let's use that example.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So,
So step 1, reflect the content.
reflect the content.
Hey, are we gonna heal her? I mean, right
Yes.
now.
Hopefully.
Good. In real time.
So when you were younger, 11, you experienced getting hit by a car while on a bike.
Yeah.
And ever since then, you have not enjoyed riding bikes. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
So I use it. Is that a correct? Like I just paraphrase.
Or just paraphrase.
Or okay, there you go. I paraphrase the whole story. But that's kind of reflecting the content. Like I'm listening, I hear you. Like this is what I understood you say, right? Yeah, I get. So now I'm gonna do step 2, acknowledging the emotions. I get how scary and how impactful that experience must have been for you. Right?
It also hurt.
I bet.
Physically.
I bet it did. And it's okay for you to not like riding bikes
Thank you.
or whatever. So that's step 3, communicate the acceptance. Like, I would love to see you get back on a bike, riding it, and anytime you want to have an experience like that, please try to include me so it can be like more powerful for you. But it's okay for you not to feel that right now. And if it ever changes, like if you ever want to change it, let's work on it together.
See, that was great. Mine was a little sillier, but like that was a great example. Like if you're talking to someone who has had an experience that is like more like mentally impactful, that's a great example of how we can do that. I'm okay now, but
Good.
yeah, just saying. Just I don't like bikes. That's fine.
So, question.
Yeah.
Would you be interested in starting with a stationary bike at the gym?
No, ugh, those are uncomfortable.
They are uncomfortable. I don't use them either. I'm like, treadmill all day.
I tried that one time and I was like, my butt hurts. I'm not doing this. I'm here for muscles, not butt pain.
For sure. All right. Drey, is there anything else you want to say or talk about?
No, man, this was really educational, man. I learned a lot.
Yay.
Yeah, no, yay. Well, then, thank you so much for coming on our podcast. So, if people wanted to get a hold of you, hold on, let me start that over. So, thank you so much for coming on our podcast. If people want to get a hold of you to talk about this subject or any subject in general, what would be the best way for people to do that?
I'm on social media, on Twitter. I'm at the Drey Aaron on Twitter and on the Instagram and on Facebook. I'm Drey Aaron in those. I'm not on TikTok. I don't even understand TikTok. I don't.
It's very educational.
Is it really?
Yeah, like this year I'm doing more of a push to like watch a little bit every day.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like, and I also think it depends on like what you like and select and how much you watch something versus how fast you scale. Like it's crazy, but
yeah,
I get a lot.
Maybe I need to give it a chance. Maybe I'm traumatized somewhere in my past, and it's not letting me give TikTok a chance. But no, I'm everywhere except for TikTok, and so if you friend me on Facebook, I'm gonna accept your friend request. Same on any other ones. Follow me on Twitter, IG. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. And of course, all of that will be linked in our show description. Just to piggyback off of that, if you didn't know, Lamont and Leah have a TikTok now. We post funny clips, sometimes outtakes, and little snippets of our episodes. So make sure you guys go follow us on there. Unfortunately, someone stole our username. I don't know who wanted to be Lamont N Leah, but they are. So we're Lamont N Leah with an N, not an and, but that's okay. It's close enough. It's just bothering me that all our usernames...
There's another Lamont and Leah out there?
It's an empty account. I feel like someone just took the name because they're like, oh, someone will want this. But then they don't reply to any messages about me asking if I could have the name. Like, y'all want money? Here.
Right. Interesting.
But anyway, check out the links below so that you can get in contact. I know we talked about this earlier, but is there anything else that you're working on that you want to share, or maybe something cool that you just want to brag about a little bit?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh, no, there's nothing going on in my life whatsoever, dude.
All right, fair.
All right. Well, I guess our final question.
The most exciting thing that happened to me lately was Will Smith slapping Chris Rock.
Oh my gosh.
I'm traumatized by that.
Let's talk about that after we close. Like, that could probably be a special
Oh
reel or whatever.
Okay.
But I guess finally, is there any message that you would like people to know from your heart? It doesn't have to be about today's subject, and if it is, that's okay too. But you just want people to really know and accept. Like, what kind of message would you give them?
If you're going through anything, right, no matter what it is, it's okay, right? If you feel depressed, if you think you're depressed, if you're having panic attacks, anxiety, try to talk to someone. I cannot stress that enough. Sometimes, me and Leah we said it today. Sometimes talking to your friends help. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes you need someone like Lamont, right? to break it down for you, to, make you see things, through another prism, right? I'm trying to refrain from saying get help, but talk to someone. Don't be ashamed. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
Agreed. Thank you.
We're all going through something.
Yeah, we are. No, listen, you're right. We all have trauma. There's things in our past that, no one's even killed. We're all have something. You're not alone, man. Yeah, you're not alone out there.
Once again, thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate you.
Thank you guys for having me. I had a great time. Again, I watch you guys, so this was a real treat for me to be on the show.
Awesome.
I actually kicked my family out.
I recorded today.
I was like, because I think I told you, Lamont, that my amp and my noise gate went out. And so I'm like, hey, you guys can't be making noise. Get out. So they all went to the mall.
Cool. I hope they're having a good time.
I hope they are too. If they're not, we'll deal with it later, I guess. But again, thank you guys so much. Thank you guys for having me on.
And thank you guys for listening and watching.
Today's life lesson is brought to you by me. I know, we're switching it up. But I just quickly wanted to talk about the importance of having like a clean-ish living space. I know it's so hard to clean sometimes. I hate it. I hate doing laundry. I hate washing dishes. But having a clean-ish living environment is actually really good for your mental health. I know right now my kitchen is very messy and it is driving me insane. And I've identified that as the reason. just having a clean area can help you relax a little bit, because even if you're not like thinking about it, like, oh, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, you could be, you know, subconsciously worried about it. When you see the mess, you're like, huh, yeah, gotta clean that. So I know it's hard, but if I can do it, we can do it. We'll do it together. Leave me a comment down below. Tell me what you're cleaning, and we'll clean it together. Stay clean. There you go. I don't know if that was good, but that's what I'm doing.